Well, we are joined by Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former senior diplomat, to get his perspective on this story. Ambassador Trigunayat, why is Russia testing ICBMs?
Well, Russia is considers itself as a superpower, which has the largest number of nuclear weapons at the moment. They were involved in disarmament for a long time now. Several treaties were signed, but many of them, as has been now come to become a focus, is that the United States had, even though signed the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, CTBT, but had not ratified it until now, since 1996. Besides, the USA had also walked out of several treaties in the past, as we have seen, which was, for example, the ABM Treaty, which was done immediately after the 9/11, which unilaterally was revoked. The Bush also went out of the treaty. Recently, we have seen the Intermediate Nuclear Range Treaty. They also walked out of it. CTBT, as it is, a little bit ineffective. And we are seeing that even though the two sides had agreed to reduce certain weapon systems up to the 1500, the regular verification and all that, which has now stopped since the war began and after the pandemic. So therefore, Russia has been trying to maintain its parity and some kind of a threat perception, a deterrence, essentially, so that it also has the same possibility of testing nuclear weapons if it wishes to, which, as you mentioned in your report, has already been done with the Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile, which has a range of about 8,000 to 10,000 kilometers. So that means that it can hit anywhere in the target. At the moment, I think they feel that if the escalation goes at any stage beyond the normal limits of the conventional warfare, then Russia is prepared to take any step. However, as we have seen that since 1990, Russia has not undertaken any nuclear test. United States did the last one in 1992. So these treaties have held irrespective because of the larger interest. But today things have changed completely.
Yes.
The geopolitics is very different.
Yes, that's what I was coming to, because we know you did mention that Russia has the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons, but clearly it's ceasing to be a deterrent, a big deterrent anymore, because I mean the largest holders of these things are not actually equal players in the world. In this context, I mean, how do you see things emerging? Because I mean, they have this largest arsenal, they can't do anything with it, and they're trying to make best use of having it.
Well, what with this one it says is that one could expect some more tests. And as you know, Trump wanted basically that he wanted to change the arsenal or upgrade it to that. Russia has also been doing it, and now it will be free to do that because he is the signatory to Russia, is signatory to the treaty, but not ratified. So de-ratification gives them that same freedom which the Americans have today. Now, it is also in a way, I mean, this is a false deterrence in my view, because it's a mutually destructive syndrome.
Yes.
If at all it happens.
Yes.
So you have this false sense of security. But at the same time, every country wants to keep an option open when you have those weapons, especially when you still consider yourself as a superpower in this game. And I think that this is precisely what President Putin is trying to do now, to tell the Americans that, all bets are off now, because their relationship is virtually at a zero at the moment.
Indeed. But what impact will this have then on the support that Ukraine is getting from the West?
Well, the problem is that now the reports that are coming in are very different, that the Europeans, the Americans, everybody is probably telling the Ukrainians and Zelensky to come to some kind of an understanding with the Russians. Recently, the Russian defense minister has also said we are ready for talks. And there are these kind of reports that are coming in from Ukraine as well, even though Zelensky has denied them. But I believe that the problem is that the US can't open fronts on multiple fronts. And what we have seen is that this war, which has stretched nearly about 2 years, between Russia and Ukraine, and Russia or the West for that matter, the supplies of war material has really ebbed out. So it's very difficult to supply on different fronts. The
Okay.
US is also getting stretched, and now they are supplying everything. Their priority has actually become Israel Hamas, and you see that they don't want that war to conflict it further. And even though they have deployed their naval assets in the Eastern Mediterranean, but they're definitely finding it difficult, even though we have seen that the debates are happening in the US to continue to support. But there is definitely, in my view, a key fatigue that has set in. And
Sure.
now it is very difficult for them to continue. So they're trying to find some way where this stalemate continues, and they find some way where this becomes like a war of inches rather than the major war.
Uh, be that as it is, Ursula von der Leyen was in Kiev. And what do you think? I mean, do you see Ukraine joining the EU soon? Will that change things a bit for you, for the Ukraine?
Well, you know what I had understood earlier is that in April, when there was a discussion and the both sides, Russia, Ukraine leadership had virtually agreed to call off. And about a year and a half ago, this was an understanding that Ukraine can join the European Union, but they should not join NATO. So that was the major objection for Russia, was the security matters, not necessarily about they joining the European Union. So I think that that would not be an unacceptable thing to Russia, to Moscow, if Zelensky joins the European Union, even though it is not always that easy, given the way the European Union's labyrinthine system works. Turkey is still in the wings, as we know. So there are many countries in Eastern Europe which are also there. And it is also not a monolithic organization. We have seen several of the countries are not agreeable to the European Union's foreign policy or the way it is being conducted. So she has come here. She wants to provide all the support. European countries overtly are doing that. But I guess that they are all stretched to the limit, because their own security will be compromised if they go beyond a point to find to go into this proxy war.
Ambassador Trigunayat, we are also seeing greater engagement of the United States and Australia with China. So do you think that it's going to impact China-Russia relations?
No, I don't think so. The China-Russia relations are a reality. The others are simply buying time, in my view. Now, Australian Prime Minister is visiting China because they depend a great deal on the Chinese market. And the Chinese also want to resume their supplies and exports and imports from there, and don't want. So everybody is trying to, play all sides at the moment. This is what. But the USA obviously knows that they can't open fronts with China as well as with Russia. It'll be very difficult for them to carry on. Everybody is stretched to the limit. And Biden will be now working more harder towards his election. And so obviously there are these, decoupling to de-risking, and then trying to find some way of coexisting or working on these, issues. In fact, the Americans have also asked the Chinese to use their good offices in the Israel-Hamas war. Likewise, yes. China has been also working to deflate the Russia-Ukraine crisis as well. So I think that they are trying to use them in such a way so that the things remain below the lid, but overtly they'll continue to make anti-one country or the other statements that will go.
Yes. Yes, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat. Thank you for your perspective.